All right, guys, so welcome to another episode of the Imperfectly Perfect Podcast, where each week I'm joined by some of the world's most renowned faces in the entertainment industry, on the sports field, corporate leaders, and inspirational thought leaders around the world, each sharing their own truth and personal journeys. Today, we have none other than Sam Humphrey. Sam is a New Zealand Kiwi actor who was raised in Melbourne, Australia. Early in his career, Sam caught the eye of casting directors after making an appearance in a documentary that intimately showcased the lives of young people with disabilities who, against all odds, made their dreams a reality. Currently based in LA, working as an actor, producer, and public speaker, Sam enjoys keeping healthy, focused to creatively create a legacy that helps to change the world and leave it a cleaner, nicer, positive, and full of love. He's most notably known for starring in one of the world's biggest movies, along with household names Hugh Jackman and Efron, as Tom Thumb in The Greatest Showman. But what most people don't know is just how much he had to overcome to get there, with being born with a rare genetic disorder called Acrodysplasia, which causes a slew of issues with bone growth, mental development, and immune system abnormalities. He was also diagnosed with inflammatory bowel condition, Crohn's disease, as a child, and has spent a lifetime visiting hospitals and doctors' offices for operations and tests. He speaks openly about his struggles and his advocacy, and for being the guy who represents positivity and gratitude, even through what he's been through. So first and foremost, welcome to the show, Sam.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's an honor to be on a show that talks about mental health and opens up the stigma about mental health being, talking about mental health and all that kind of stuff being bad. So yeah, it's an honor.
Well, you're welcome, mate. And I just want to take you back a little bit, if you don't mind, for our audience, because your advocacy, like, I have watched so much stuff with you talking about your struggles and what you've been through.
Thank you.
So open about it.
It's an honor.
I do my research, mate. But no, it's just, there's so much passion behind it. And for me, I've spoken to a lot of people, and when there's a sincere passion behind it, you know that people have gone through that journey, like myself, and you've been to the depth, to your breaking point. So you just take us on a brief recall of your journey.
Yeah. So when I was like 5 to 8 years old, like, I obviously wanted to pursue acting. And again, like, me being an actor and getting into the entertainment industry, the reason I did that was because it helped me with like my mental health, and it helped me kind of get outside of what I was dealing with. At that stage, I didn't want to be Sam Humphrey. Like, I wanted so badly to be anyone else. And that's why I think acting really appealed to me and attracted me to this industry. So when I was 8 years old, got into acting, and then I'll step back a little bit. So I was born with a rare disease called Acrodysplasia, as you mentioned, which basically stunts my bone growth and comes with a whole bunch of different other different, health conditions and mental development and things like that. So when I was going to be born, originally my doctors said to my parents that there were already development issues in the womb. And so they actually wanted to pull me out a lot earlier than my expected due date. But my parents decided, no, they're going to wait. And so I was born on April 24th. That was my due date. And ever from that point on, that's when my challenges started. I was placed into an incubation tank straight away. I spent the first 6 weeks of my life in that tank, fighting for life, because they weren't sure. At that stage, they weren't sure if I was going to survive or not. And that's what they had actually told my parents. And my mom was very, very worried and very scared at that point, because she, based on what they were telling her, she was like, is my child going to die like immediately? Is that what you're telling me? And so she was very scared about that. Luckily, or very fortunately for me, I made it through that. But growing up, like, I have hearing loss as well, so I wear hearing aids as well. But growing up, I had Crohn's disease, which I didn't know at that time. I hadn't been diagnosed with yet. So I had that. And then going through all of that period, I saw a lot of doctors, and I went in and out of hospital because of my bone growth. They weren't sure, how I was developing. They wanted to track that. They also wanted to track, my physical development, because at that stage, when I got to my teenage years, I wasn't necessarily developing as, every male adult or person should. And so they thought maybe it was just delay, maturation. And so they wanted to track all that. But as they were tracking all that and my health conditions and things, the doctors had told my parents and even me that they weren't sure if I would make it past my 18th birthday. Because of all the conditions that I was dealing with, having Crohn's disease, having, Acrodysplasia, and all these other conditions. And so, unfortunately, that led me to a very dark time in my childhood and my teenage years, more my teenage years, where, and because of my size, looking like today I look older, but back then I looked very, very young, chubby cheeks and adorable and all that kind of stuff. But back then I wasn't the dateable type. So I was always friend zoned, unfortunately. And so that, also affected my mental health quite a lot. I couldn't get a girlfriend. I couldn't, measure up to other guys, because I just wasn't on that level, so to speak. And then with doctors telling me, I wouldn't necessarily make it past 18, and I was like 14, 15 at the time. So, the outlook was very bleak for me. I maybe had 3, 4 good years left. And so for me, that unfortunately led me to a point where I was like, well, if I only have a few good years left, I want to decide how I go out. I don't want this condition or whatever else to take me, when I'm not ready. So I want to decide how I go out. And so that led me to a point where I attempted suicide several times. I was depressed. I had self-doubt. I had no confidence. And I wanted to go out on my own terms. So that led me to, trying to drown myself. That led me to trying to suffocate myself. That led me to trying to cut myself. That led me to, and even some of the attempts that I didn't take, but just having that mindset of how could I kill myself? Or when could I kill myself? Having those thoughts, even if you don't try it, just having those thoughts play around and roll around your head is it's very, very bad for you, because even though you may not try it, I'll say that going about my day-to-day activities, back then, there were always moments where I was like, could I step in front of a car? Could I walk in front of a train? And then, it's those split decisions between doing it and not doing it. Because if you decide to do it, no one can stop you. You walk in front of a car, boom, it's over. So, so that was kind of my journey, growing up and dealing with all these kind of mental challenges about, again, whether or not I'm worthy and whether I'm loved and all those kind of things. So, yeah,
wow,
sorry, that's spiel.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing it. And one thing I want to touch on with that is, through all this time, you're battling with something in your head, and it's a dark place. I've been there myself, so I know what you're talking about in that respect. Being a male as well, was it hard to open up and share those struggles with people around you? Did you try and hide it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, and my family and my siblings. So I don't know if you've maybe seen my documentary. It's called Being Me, Sam Humphrey. So if you watch that, you'll see in that documentary, which if anyone wants to go and watch it, you can find on YouTube. It's called Being Me, Sam Humphrey, The Journey. Or if you just type in Sam Humphrey, you'll probably find it. But in that documentary, I revealed it reveals how my family and my siblings never knew that I attempted suicide at all. Not until that documentary actually came out. So they had no knowledge that I attempted that at all, or that I was feeling those, thoughts, or I was feeling that heavy burden. I would go to high school at the time with the biggest smile on my face. Like, you would never have known I was dealing with any of that stuff because I hid it deep down inside because I didn't want people to know that I was dealing with that stuff. I didn't want people to think that I was thinking about taking my own life. I wanted people to know me as a happy-go-lucky, down-to-earth, friendly guy. And I had created this image of who I was and how I wanted people to see me. The representation that I was strong, and that, I could get through anything. And that's how I see myself today. Like, there's nothing that I can overcome, especially with what I have now overcome. So definitely no one knew about, my struggles or anything like that.
Why do you
and yeah, it's so I just go, and yeah, being a male is very hard, and society wants us as men to, or at least going back, 5, 10, 20 years, to be the strong person, to not be vulnerable. Society, and I think in general, society doesn't. I mean, they say, open up, tell us your journey, it's okay to be vulnerable. But I think when we get to the very core of things and get to the heart of it, society gets a little, awkward when we do open up and share. They're like, that might be a little too much, So like, it's on one side, they're like, be vulnerable, open up. Like, it takes strength to be vulnerable and open up, and we want you to. And then on the other side, they're like, just don't get too personal, so it's like pick one or the other. Like, you want me to share my truth and be open and vulnerable, or you want me to shut up.
And this is the thing. This is the thing about Imperfectly Perfect. It was a way, because I actually saw a lot of things out there portrayed as surface level conversations and sugarcoating things, and it's like, we need to remove past the surface level, because you'll see some of the images behind me. I utilized photography with Australian celebrities. Obviously, COVID hit, so I can't take anyone's photo at the moment. It was a case of, when I reached out to them, said, we need to remove the mask. This is what everybody knows you as, but no studios, no makeup, no nothing. And we need to go past into the hard conversations, because I'm with you on that respect. And I think that's why this has continually grown, because it's going past and going deeper, because people feel like this. If it wasn't, I don't think there'd still be opportunity for things like IPC to be gaining this traction. If the stigma had stopped, we're still feeling like that. So,
and I think you hit like the nail on the head, and this is why I'm so open. Obviously there are certain things that I have to keep to myself because of social media and how they run within perceptions and stuff. But like, I try to be as open as I can about, the things I've dealt with and the challenges I've gone through in my mental health, because, as humble as I try to be, like, celebrity or whatever, I don't necessarily see myself as, brand celebrity or whatever. But when celebrities start to take the mask down and shed the stigma that talking about our mental health and that being vulnerable and being open is actually a strength. And that's something that we need to share with the general public. When celebrities and public figures are open about this and are able to show that they can be vulnerable and they can share, some, not everything, because, obviously we're as human beings, we still have things that we want to deal with, privately, and we don't want to share our entire lives on social media and stuff like that. But more than surface level, like you said, that we need to go deeper and show a little bit of our humanity. We're not just actors. We're not just people on the big screen that you watch for 1-2 hours a day and then you're done. We're real people. So we need to shed that stigma that we're perfect. That we're all glammed up with makeup and we can do no wrong and we don't make mistakes and stuff. So when public figures and celebrities start doing that, then everyday people, and not that celebrities aren't everyday people, but you know what I mean, but everyday people can feel okay about not being okay, and that they don't need to feel like, oh, I'm such a screw up, I don't have my life together, I will never be successful, blah, 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 blah. That's a voice that we tell ourselves because we see in media and social media that oh, they've got it all figured out. Their world
Yeah.
is so perfect. They have no struggles. They have no challenges. Everything just goes perfect for them. And it's not true. It's just not true. And so we need to shed that stigma and that mask around, that there are people out there living the perfect life with no struggles and no challenges. So yeah.
So that leads perfectly into my question, which I ask everyone on this. What you just said, attesting to it, what does being imperfectly perfect mean to you?
It means being a human being. That's what we are, and that actually touches on something that I'm building and a brand and platform that I'm establishing that came out of COVID. Actually, it's called The Little Guy. And our slogan is hashtag standing up for the little guys. And it can be literal, because I'm a little guy, but it's also metaphorical in the sense that the philosophy for the little guy is we're all human beings. We're not perfect. We all have flaws. And that's what, being imperfect is. Accepting that we're all going to make mistakes, that we're all failures in a sense. And that's okay, because we are human beings. We're not supposed to be perfect. And I've dealt with this myself, because growing up in high school, and I still deal with it today, I'm such a perfectionist. I want everything to be perfect, to the point that sometimes I don't start, because I'm like, oh, I want it to be so lined up that I then get so in my head that I never end up starting it because it's not perfect. And so that's something I'm working on, that you just have to start it, and it'll find perfection along the way. It doesn't need to be perfect when you start it. So embracing our humanity and embracing our flaws, that's what it means to be imperfect.
Wow. And your representation now, basically, of what you say, and I've heard you say quite a lot in interviews, of gratitude and positivity. So why is that so important to you to bring that forward?
So why it's so important for me is because everything that I've gone through, I can't even, count it anymore. The amount of times that I should not be here. I mean, honestly, I've almost been hit by cars. I've almost been hit by trains. I've had a number of surgeries that, doctors have said are so risky, that you could die on the operating table. Like, I've been in and out of hospital so many times that I should not be here. Like, I literally, I shouldn't. By the grace of God, I'm still here. I'm 28. And like I said, doctors said I probably wouldn't have made it past my 18th birthday. I'm now 28. So I'm a decade older than what doctors said that I potentially wouldn't have made it past. So, gratitude and positivity, the fact that I'm still here today and I'm thriving, even though sometimes I get in my own head with, negativity and stuff like that. And that's why gratitude and positivity to me is important, to block out those negative aspects, to be like, why aren't things going my way? And that's another thing. When we focus on negativity, and it takes more energy to focus on negativity than it does positivity and gratitude, because there's so much gratitude and positivity around us that, I'm alive. That's one thing. I have a roof over my head. That's another thing. I have food. I have water. I don't have to walk 5 miles a day to get murky water to drink. I can turn on my tap and there's water. I have my family around me. It's these little things that we unfortunately take for granted, that, if we just look around us and, open our eyes and acknowledge how much we can be grateful for, it can turn your whole day around, and it can turn the outlook of your life around. And so looking at the gratitude and the positivity, and I actually have one thing that I now carry with me, and I don't know if you've heard about this or looked into it, but Think and Grow Rich is all about, manifesting the life you want. And gratitude and positivity is a huge part of that. Like, if you're not grateful for what you already have, or you can't be positive about what you already have, then you're not going to be able to manifest bigger and better things for your life. And I actually have this thing called a gratitude rock, and a manifestation rock. And I have this on me all the time. And, you know, when I'm manifesting or I'm being grateful for what I have this in my hand, and I'm just, you know, playing with it and focusing on what I want and focusing on what I'm grateful for and focusing on, you know, all the things that, because of the gratitude that I express and because of the positivity that I express, that I'm manifesting all these bigger and better things into my life because of the gratitude and positivity that I'm already expressing.
I need to tell you this then, so you'll love this one. It was only 2 weeks ago, before I touched base with yourself, that Kezia Luckett, who's a partner in IPC, we was manifesting. We have little dreams about where we want to take this and do. And it was funny, and she was talking about The Greatest Showman with Kiel Settle singing This Is Me a cappella, the video that went viral. And she was like, how you listen to the lyrics in that song? And the funny thing was, we was talking, going, you know what, it would be amazing to get someone from the show. The next day, literally, Kiel, I think it's Kiel Settle, started looking at stories on the IPC.
Wow.
And then, so I was like, Kezia, have you seen this? This is how quick we're manifesting. And then it led me to look into people's stories, and you stood straight out with your advocacy and talking loud. And now look, here we are. In 2 weeks. So that gratitude, positivity, and manifestation. And that's what I want to touch on with you when it comes to, you've been to the broken place. It shows you how powerful your mind is to go in there. Now, on the flip side, it also shows you what you've been able to achieve. A lot of people, and why I want to ask you this, is they utilize that energy some way in expelling it in different ways. Yours was your acting. So did you find that, or what could you say to our audience that maybe they're not finding that outlet like you found yours? Was it something that you, when you was going through that dark space, you really had to push harder into that to take you out of that thought process of what you was dealing with?
Yeah. I mean, definitely everyone, you know, finds their different outlet to, you know, express their emotions. You know, people paint, photography, you know, different forms of artwork or running, sports, business. Everyone has that, you know, outlet. And I think you just need to keep pushing until you find something that gives you that satisfaction in, you know, being able to let out your emotions. Because acting for me, you know, obviously acting is a very expressive and emotional form of outlet in general anyway, because, you know, as I take on different characters, I become those characters and I am able to let out my emotions through those characters. So acting is definitely a good form of, you know, emotional relief therapy, and it was for me, and that's why I think a lot of people do get into acting, whether it's, you know, professionally or as a hobby, or it's just something to help them, you know, express those emotions. There's that. But one thing I'd say, if you definitely are, you know, feeling overwhelmed, or you're feeling, you know, like there's nothing that you feel like you can do to help you relieve those emotions or express that, you know, bottle up of everything you're feeling, talk to someone. You know, it's the simple act of talking to someone is very therapeutic. You know, whether it's a best friend, it's you know, your parents, family member, sibling, or even going to see a professional therapist. Like, that's something that's a stigma that I'm really trying to break down in society. And I talk about it a lot. And, you know, obviously I won't share anything that I share in therapy, but I see a therapist, like, you know, and there are many celebrities that I'm sure, obviously they may not share, but I'm sure many celebrities also probably see a therapist, you know. So if you have to, go talk to someone professionally. Like, you know, it's not something that we should be ashamed about needing to go and seek a professional, because our mind is very, very complicated. You know, I heard and I read that we have something like 60 million thoughts a day. Like, I mean, that's crazy. How can you monitor, or how can you how can you sort through 60 million thoughts a day? That's an insane number of thoughts. Like trying to sort through that and trying to come to terms of our emotions and what we're thinking through all of those thoughts is just nuts. And so, just like we have professional actors, just like we have professional sports and businessmen and news anchors and all that, we have professional people to help deal with our thoughts. So it's not, we shouldn't be scared to say, hey, look, I'm going to a professional that can help me figure out my mind and figure out those thoughts that I'm having, especially if you are on the brink of, suicide. I mean, seriously, if you are on the brink of ending your life, please, 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 please go and seek out an organization or go and seek out a professional that can help you. It really breaks my heart when I hear that someone has taken their life because they couldn't handle it, or they felt like there was no one who cared about them or loved them or anything like that, because there are so many people out there that, maybe they just haven't been told that they're loved, and I will tell you now, if you're watching this, you are loved. Seriously, you are loved. You are cared about. There are people who have loved you. Maybe they haven't told you. Or maybe you haven't truly asked, opened up to them, or, when someone asks you, and this is something that I want to tell people, if someone truly has gone through the effort of asking you, how are you? How's your day going? Don't just say I'm good or I'm fine. If you're truly good and fine, awesome. Yeah, say you're fine. Say you're good. But if you're dealing with something and someone has asked you how's your day going and they really care, don't just say you're good. Please, if you do trust them, open up to them. And maybe at that moment isn't a good time for them. Just say, if you, are interested in, wanting to hear, more about, how my day is going or, what I'm going through, and you want to hear about it, and maybe now's not the best time, I would love to, find a time where I can share with you or I can open up with you if that's something that you really, want to know about or you want to hear about. Because I think in today's day and age, we're so busy and we get so caught up in what we're doing that we forget that there are people struggling, and we forget that, there are people that do care about us, that, they just forget, and get caught up in their own, busy, schedules and things like that. So, that's what I want to say.
That's the passion in you is so, so heartfelt. Like,
thank you.
And that comes from somebody who's been through it, who knows. And it is just so powerful, mate. And when I was talking about that outlook for acting, so I just want to lighten the mood a little bit from going in that direction. Then you've got another ball to contend with. I was listening to you talking, and you were sharing a story about you was on Neighbours. Good old Neighbours, the Aussie icon show for anybody who's not knowing out there.
Including Nicole Kidman. I got on it and left.
and then you got an email with the role for The Greatest Showman, and you was about to delete it because you thought it was too good to be true.
I got the email, and honestly, at the time I was like, who am I? Like, why are they reaching out to me? Why do they want me, Sam Humphrey, and a 20th century Fox film? I'm like, this is crazy. And so my finger was literally hovering over the delete button, and I was like, I'm gonna delete this email because I don't know why I thought it was a hoax, because it literally came from my agent, which I had completely forgotten about. So I don't know why it would be a hoax. I guess I just wasn't thinking at that time. But so I got that email, finger hovering over the delete button, was gonna delete it, and then I'm like, I'm an actor, hoax or no hoax, I gotta go for it, regardless. So I did it. I sent it back. Next thing I know, I'm shortlisted. And the week after, I'm on a Skype call with the director, Michael Gracie, doing my audition again with him via Skype. And then literally a couple days later, they're like, we like him. he's been cast. And I got another email that goes, congratulations, we have decided to cast Sam Humphrey in the role of Tom Thumb for the feature film, The Greatest Show on Earth, because that was its title at the time. And I was like, so many things going through my head at that time. I was like, is this email real? I was like, is this another fake email? Should I delete this one? But yeah, I was just like, I was gobsmacked. I was like, oh my goodness. And at that time, I didn't even know Hugh Jackman was the lead. I was like, wow, I got a movie. And then a few days later, they told me that Hugh Jackman was the lead, and I was like, okay, yeah, all right. And
this is going from like fake email to real to bigger to bigger to big.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna be in a movie with like my all-time childhood hero. I'm like, what is happening right now? Because I had a moment in my, kind of before this all happened, where I stared, and this is the power of manifestation, like what you were saying and what I'm saying, is I had a moment where I just stared out my bedroom window, and it's like a double-walled, full, length bedroom window where the whole thing's glass, where my intuition, like, I don't know what it was, but my intuition was just like kicking in really strong. I stared out my window into the cosmic vastness, and I was like, I don't know when, I don't know how, I don't know where it's going to come from, but I just know that I'm going to like work with Hugh Jackman and be in a film with Hugh Jackman and walk the red carpet. I don't know where this feeling's coming from, but I just feel it intuitively. And then 1 year later, I've been in The Greatest Showman with Hugh Jackman walking the red carpet. And it's just mind blowing. I'm like, wow.
Wasn't there a fangirl moment when you met Hugh?
Absolutely. Oh, yes, there was. So we're in the rehearsal space at Steiner Studio in New York. And I'm talking with Martin Gracie, our director. I'm talking with him, we're standing around, and he goes, hey, Sam, so good to, meet you again in person, because I'd already met him in Vancouver for an initial meeting. It's like, so great to have you here and, talking with you on the rehearsal studio set. He goes, have you met Hugh Jackman yet? I'm like, and my voice is already getting a little like giddy. I'm like, no. And he goes, okay, just, wait here. I'll bring him over. I'm like, at this point, I'm just like feeling complete numbness in my body, because I'm just like, oh my goodness, like I'm about to meet Hugh Jackman live and in person. Oh my goodness. He comes walking over, and he's a tall guy. So I'm literally doing this. I'm like looking up at him. He's like 6 foot something tall. And he goes, hey, mate, hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm good. Just like trying to play it completely cool. Just like, the cool stance, almost like superhero stance. I'm just like, I'm good. How are you going? And I'm like, not coming off as cool or the best first impression, is it? He's like, no, not really. He's like, it's all good though. I'm like, cool. and yeah, we just talked, and yeah, I mean, it was just a truly amazing experience to meet him and just have like those conversations with him, like, because he was telling me about John Travolta and how he met John Travolta and how he had like a similar experience, although he played it a lot cooler than I did, with John Travolta, and how he was telling him about, teaching him his experience of acting and things like that. And just listening to Hugh talk, and, he's a really sweet guy, and he really is who he appears to be. Yeah. He's Australian sweetheart. We all know and love him, even though I'm not Australian. Australia has stolen me. So, they always like to say, he's Australian. And even though I don't deny that I'm, adopted Australian, I'm like, I think New Zealand might, be a little upset that you're trying to claim me because I am Kiwi, but I'm adopted Australian. So there you go.
They did that with Russell Crowe as well, didn't they? He's Australian.
That
was Kiwi.
Actually, yeah, I would say I'm a little embarrassed to actually find out that he is Kiwi because for the longest time, because Australia is so good at doing this, for the longest time, I did think he was Australian. I only found out in the last, literally maybe few years, I was like, he's a Kiwi? Yeah. Oh my goodness. So Australia successfully stolen Russell Crowe.
But it's the same with Kylie Minogue, like the UK, because her music came out in the UK first a lot. It's like the pop princess of the UK. It's like Kylie Minogue, and it's like, no, she's Australian, mate. So
crazy. They just take everyone.
Exactly. But that what you said about the intuition and just knowing, because when I was listening to you speak before, something that I'd picked up on was the fact that when everything started flowing, started moving fast for you, your visas were taken care of, this, that, and the other. And I go to LA each year. I know, well, before COVID, and I know a lot of people, and I know how hard it is to sort visas, to do this, that, and that, and yours. So it's kind of, you've either tapped into something else, because you said, when you know, you know. And it's like, when you don't see a way, there will be a way that's made if it's meant to be. And your visas and everything else, and now you're living in LA, that's just like, that's a miracle in itself. I just think that's...
Yeah, and I mean, just actually, it's funny, all the little things that you kind of take for granted or you forget. But even living in LA, even though, it's completely normal and I'm just, doing my everyday life now, it's like, it's funny to remember that was actually a manifestation on a list that when I wrote when I was a child has, I will be living in LA as an actor. And I'm doing that today, and I forget that was one of my manifestations. And so I'm like, wow, this is so crazy. So now I'm like, and I lost a little bit.
What else do I want? What else do I want?
I lost a little bit of the manifestation power, as I was growing up and going along. But lately, I reconnected to that because I started remembering all these different things along my journey that I was like, there wasn't a way for that until I started manifesting it. And then it all just came together. So I'm like, today when I'm working, because now I'm a actor / producer, and I have several different projects that I'm developing. I have scripts that I'm trying to package to get greenlit into, feature films today. And if you know about anything that's anything, making feature films is not easy. Packaging feature films is not easy. You got to get the distribution, you got to get the financing, and the financing is millions and millions of dollars. That stuff just doesn't come out of the blue. And so I've gotten back on track with, manifesting, these huge things that other people be like, don't bother. It's not going to happen. It's like, well, I've manifested impossible things before. I'm gonna do it. So I know that it's gonna happen. So you just gotta believe it and manifest it. And that's what I'm doing today. And it's all about mindset and the mentality, especially with mental health. And that's one way that you can shift your mental health, is that if you focus on what you want and what you believe in, then you can shift your mental health to positivity and gratitude than negativity and being like, oh, things aren't happening for me. You've got to manifest and get on the level of the universal vibration that the universe wants to make these things happen for you. Because if you're in a negative headspace and you're telling yourself, oh, the universe doesn't care, no one loves me, things aren't happening, then the universe is going to respond to that. They're going to be like, okay, well, you don't want it. You're telling yourself it's not going to happen. You're telling yourself, things don't work out for you. Then the universe and the vibrational energy that you're putting out, it's all going to, connect and respond to all of that. So, that's why we need to get our mind right.
I'm just blown away. I'm just like, I could talk about this for hours because I'm like,
so could I. I'm very passionate about this stuff.
But you're so tapped in as well. Like, I'll tell
Thank
you,
you.
I say to everybody, I say this campaign has been amazing to start conversations, but my own personal journey has led me through spirituality and learning how to tap in. And like Dr. Joe Dispenza and those who have been on, they're saying exactly the same things as you. So I know when somebody is tapped in, because those very words that you keep saying, when you know that you know that you know. You've ever time listened to the Dr. Joes and Wim Hofs, they say exactly the same thing. And they also, the way you talk is very childlike nature in respect of passion. You're tapping in because you've got that passion of a child to, you're excited about what you're talking about, and plus you know that you know.
So excited. So
that's why I mean, it's just
it's some, and I think it's something that society, and whether it's intentional, and I kind of think it is sometimes, that society wants to push us down because they want to, they want to keep us under control. They don't want to necessarily want us to, break free, because I don't know, people who are watching, whether they believe in, what they believe in. I'm an open mind and free spirit where I believe in God, and, I am a Christian as well. But, when we listen to different teachings, Think and Grow Rich, and, other different teachings about mindset and things like that, and Christian teachings as well, they all say we're made in the image of God. So we have that connection to, spirituality, and we have that connection to divineness. And yes, we're human beings, that we're not God, but we have that divine connection and the divine spark to it. So therefore, when we realize that we can, because of that connection, and that God himself is unlimited power, right? And because we have just a 1% connection to that, we can create, once we really, really tap in to that, infinite power, we can create anything that we really, really put our mind to. And so, and one thing that I really believe in is that anything that our mind can conceive, it can and will create. When we're powerful enough and focused on what we want, it will happen. And again, it's depending on, it may not happen today, it may not happen tomorrow. And again, it depends on how powerfully or how fast you are manifesting it. It could happen today, it could happen tomorrow. It all comes back to how much passion and belief and how much energy and focus we put into it. Whether you call something big or small, that's us putting those labels on it. So you just got to believe, and you're just going to manifest that it's going to happen. Because the moment you decide that it's not going to happen, again, universe responds to that and says, you don't want it to happen, it's not going to happen. You want it to happen, it's going to happen. When or where, we don't know, but it will happen.
Which is why you should always be your imperfect self, because you attract the right people that you need in your life. Like, everyone's a lesson and all that. But just last couple of questions, because you're very open about, you've done this huge movie and everything, but you also are very open about saying you can go from a big movie, but the reality is sometimes you're not working after it. You're open about the realities of Hollywood and things like that. And I think sometimes people see yourself and other people on these big films and think, well, how will they know? They're disconnected now because they've done this big movie. It's not like that at all, is it?
No, I mean, I'm very fortunate that I did come in on the top, and it has given me, a platform to be. I mean, I'm very grateful for Greatest Showman, because it's given me a platform where I'm able to use my voice very powerfully to impact the lives of other people, because that's all I truly want to do, is and that's a legacy I want to leave behind, when my time is done. And that's why I'm building this platform, The Little Guy, hashtag standing up for the little guys, because I truly believe that we're all human beings, regardless of labels, titles, genders and all that stuff, and politics. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we're human beings. We all have our time on this earth, and then we're done. So I want to try and elevate us all to the same level where we have the same level of equitable opportunities to achieve the things that we want to do and achieve the purpose that we're put on this earth to do. And with us all being human beings, I believe that that's what should bind us together. You know, whether you have $1 billion in the bank, or whether or not you're homeless, it doesn't matter. And having $1 billion in the bank, we should be aspiring to raise up the person who's homeless on the street and bring them to a level where they, feel comfortable and able to achieve, what they have in their mind to achieve, because they're not just a nobody on the street. They're a human being with hopes and dreams and things that they want to accomplish in this life. They just have had, and I don't necessarily like to use the word luck, even though, there is luck in, certain things that we do, or more or less you call opportunities. When you put yourself out there, opportunities happen. But they've had, unfortunately, bad events and bad things that have happened in their lives. And, it's unfortunately pushed them down to a level where, they are. And unfortunately, sometimes when you get in a bad, negative headspace or mindset, it's very hard to come out of it. Like, as you know, and as I know, you got to fight. Like, you really, really got to fight. And some people, unfortunately, just haven't managed to fight through that. And so I'm very passionate about advocating for them and, through the work that I do, to try and bring us all to that equal level where we can thrive to have, an equal level of humanity where everyone's doing okay and everyone has the resources they need to, do what they need to do on earth before their time is done. Food, healthcare, education, financial support. And that's all what I'm working on as part of my platform for the little guy.
You are dropping so much wisdom. I'm just like, this is going to be amazing for our audience, but I'm just sat here going, wow, this is my kind of person, because it's like a good friend of mine, like, she was like, when you find your people, you could just sit under a tree all day and just have these conversations and just be content. It's just, it's so powerful.
When I open my mind up, I will say, some people are like, I would love to just get inside your mind and see how it works. I'm like, it's a little bit of a scary place in there. I don't know if you wanna crawl inside there.
I want to tap into that.
Sometimes I'm like, I wish I could just get out of my head for just a couple minutes, because it's scary in there. But this is what's rolling around in my head, and this is what I see for humanity. Like, I believe that we all are trying to strive to get to our highest self. And I don't know whether people believe in this, but I believe in it, that we're all trying to strive. And I'm trying to strive in building this platform to getting us and humanity back to the level of getting us back to, the presence of God, because he made us, so, that's what I believe that we're all trying to strive to get back to, whether or not you believe in that or not,
Yeah, well, it's something that's come to me, and I know that this is an initiative that was placed in my heart, which has kept on opening doors with everything that you're saying. And to the point where I'm like, connecting humanity to a new way of living, there's no reason why people should be here and look at professions or titles. We need to remove this mask and see us all for who we are. And we 100%. Can all sit at the same table. Like, it's just, everyone's got dreams. So I always say, like, IPC it's a catalyst. It's not me, it's his. Whether people believe or what, but I say it's not my work. I'm just this catalyst to bring people's stories, to help other people. And then if someone's got a dream or a vision, if we can make that come to fruition through help, then so be it. But my last question for you is, you kind of touched upon your legacy. If there's anything to anybody out there listening right now who may be struggling, what would you want them to take away?
That I would love for them to take away that it's okay. You're going to be okay. It's okay to struggle. It's okay to go through challenges. And remember, sometimes we have to go through these struggles. We have to go through these challenges because it builds character. It builds who we are. Sometimes we don't know what we're capable of if we don't go through hell. And there's a great, and I've seen it many times on social media, there's a quote by Steve Harvey that says, if you're going through hell, why stop there? You know, if you're going through hell, you don't want to stop there. You're already going through hell, so you may as well keep going and get out through the other side. But you don't want to give up in the middle of hell, because then you're in hell. So like, you know, just keep going, because eventually you're gonna get through the other side. And also, if you really are struggling, again, like, I mean, I touched on this before, if you're really struggling, please open up to someone. Like, there's nothing worse than trying to deal with it all on your own and feeling like the weight of the world is only on your shoulders. And I'm talking from experience. And like, I still have a lot to learn, and I still have a lot to, you know, go through with my own journey, because I experienced that today. I have, whether it's good or bad, you know, there's always two sides of the coin, good or bad, or whether it just is. I myself have a little bit of a savior complex. You know, I want to help the world. I want to help everyone and everything that I can. And so there's a lot of times where I feel the weight of that on my shoulders, where I'm like, can I do this? Am I meant to do this? And that's why in my head, it's crazy scary sometimes. I'm like, I need to do this. I need to do that. I need to do this. I need to do that. I now need to trademark the little guy. I need to find someone who can help me with financing. I need to find someone who can help me with marketing. I need to find someone who can help me with, you know, outreach. And I need to find this, that, and that. And like, that's a scary place inside my head. And then I'm also an actor. Like, you know, I need to focus on my acting career. And I need to focus on roles that really align with who I am as a person. And then, you know, there's my speaking that I do. And then I'm an author. So, you know, there's just so many facets of what I want to do and what I want to achieve and the legacy I want to leave behind, that I freak out sometimes. And there are moments where I'm like, you know what, today I'm just going to sit back on the couch and do absolutely nothing. I'm not going to check my emails. I'm not going to post on social media. I'm just going to spend a whole day watching TV. Wow. And sometimes you need that. You just need to take a day or a moment out for yourself and do absolutely nothing and just be with yourself and shut your brain off. And I know that's easier said than done, because trust me, I know that. There are times where I'm like, I just want to sit back, do nothing. But my brain's just like, nope, I'm not going to let you do that. You're going to think about this. You're going to think about that. 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 And I'm like, please just stop. But yeah, so if you're struggling, open up to someone, whether that's family, friends, a professional, or take a day for yourself. Relax, walk, run, take a bath, take a massage. I did that literally the other day. I went and got a massage and just took an hour to relax. So, you know, struggle or no struggle, take time for yourself. Mental health is the number one key thing. If we don't have our mind right, we can't do anything else, you know. And again, it links up with body as well. You got to have your body right as well, because if your body's not right, you're not going to have a body to be able to focus on your mental health. No body, no mind. No mind, nothing. So
he is dropping some bombs today. Where can people find out more information about you, and obviously the little guy as well?
Yeah, so if you want to find out more information about me, you can go on to my social media. Instagram is the Sam Humphrey. Facebook is also the Sam Humphrey. The little guy is in development at the moment, but I share about the little guy on my social media as well. And as updates happen with the little guy and my project, you'll see all about that on social media. And yeah, there will be a social media platform that will be coming out soon, specifically for the little guy, and that will be called The Little Guy.
Wow. Well, guys, anybody that's listening, you're going to get so much from Sam. I know you've poured into me through that. So I want to thank you on behalf of the campaign, on behalf of me, for everything you do, your advocacy. I just want to leave it on a high, because you have dropped so many bombs. But guys, I'm going to be putting all the links up to where you can find Sam. Just keep remembering, though, these conversations which we've had just show you that two guys across the world don't know each other and can have these open conversations. It can be that easy. So it just shows you where your mind can take you. So please keep having the hard conversations, because it's the hard conversations that saves lives. Until next time, guys, remember to subscribe and keep up to date with all our latest episodes. Thank you.